Hi everyone. Jupyter recently announced the new version of Jupyter and Jupyterlab. We're going to discuss this in this video. Here is the blog post where they have announced this and highlighted some main features. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the documentation for Jupyter, and we're going to look at these individual features. So first of all, one of the main features they have announced is the introduction of the debugger in Jupyter Notebook. Previously, debugging was possible in Jupyter Notebooks, but you had to install some additional libraries like IPyKernel and ZeosPython to run debugger in Jupyter Notebooks. But now what you need to do is you can install Jupyterlab Notebook, and that's all you need to run debugger in Jupyter Notebooks. So that's a very good improvement. Then we have the second main feature is the real-time collaboration. Now you can collaborate simultaneously with your colleagues. You can work simultaneously on the same notebook with your colleagues and in a collaborative environment. Then there is introduction of table of contents as well on the left-hand side, which is built in now by default, which helps you to navigate to the notebook very quickly. Another cosmetic but very important change is theming and dark mode. So you can use that, especially when you're working for long hours. The next change is the introduction of language packs, which allows you to change the language for the Jupyter notebooks as well. And then there are some accessibility improvements in the backend. For example, now there's an upgrade to use CodeMirror 6, which improves the text editor and also the performance of the Jupyter notebooks as well. And then you can have there is support for more Jupyterlab extensions, as well as some user experience improvements as well. For example, one of the important improvements is the compact view on mobile devices, which is very useful sometimes if you want to just quickly review through these Jupyter notebooks. So let's have a look at these one by one, but I'm going to compare the Jupyterlab version 3 with Jupyterlab version 4 first. So we are going to see what are the main differences between the notebooks, how they are displayed. Let's have a look at them one by one. To look at the comparison between the two different versions of Jupyterlab and Jupyter Notebook, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use one of the example notebooks, which is available on Jupyter's GitHub page. So let's have a look at this. We will run this example using the two different versions. So I have set up two different environments. One is with Jupyterlab version 3 and Jupyter Notebook version 6, whereas I have set up another environment where we have Jupyterlab 4, Jupyter Notebook version 7. So let's launch this Jupyterlab version 3 on port 6006, and we launch Jupyterlab version 4, Jupyter Notebook version 7 on port 7007. All right, so on the left, I've got Jupyterlab version 3, and on the right, I've got Jupyterlab version 4. And Jupyter Notebook version 6 is on the left, version 7 is on the right. So if you look at this, so you can immediately see that there is a difference between the two interfaces. The interface on the right looks more modern. You can see there are some subtle changes. For example, new button is on the left in the newer version, and upload is on the right, whereas it was on the left in the older version. And the buttons are a bit larger as well in size. The icons have changed. We have different tabs at the top, and if you look at them, they have different options as well. All right, so let's open the notebook examples, and then we can have a look at in these menus in a bit detail. So if I look at the menu, for example, the file menu, most of the options you can see are the same, but we have got more options on the right hand side with the newer version. So previously you could close and halt the current notebook, but now what this new menu allows is to shut down the kernel as well. So if you can directly shut down the kernel from the notebook. Previously you had to close it down and then you go back and then shut down the kernel. So it's a bit much better. So there is a new download option as well in the newer version. And um, yes, so I think that's, and then there were a few other options um, uh, in the previous version. Okay, so let's have a look at the next edit option, and in edit you can see there are more options on in the newer version. There are a few options which have been removed uh, from the previous version. For example, I cannot see edit notebook metadata on the right side. I cannot spot it, but there are a few more options here now. All right, and then we have the view option, which was, if you look at the view, there are a lot more options here on the right side compared to in the previous option. So you can expand selected outputs, expand all outputs, and so on. And you have the left sidebar and the right sidebar enabled options as well, which you can customize. So you can show to a table of contents, for example, on the left side and show debugger on the right side, whereas previously this option is not available. If you look, and then the next option is run. Here there was no option, there was an insert option available, which is not available in the newer version. Previously, if you had to run the cell, you had to select cell and then run cells, but now there is an option which is run. So you just go to run and then run the selected cell. Then we have the kernel option, and if we compare kernel option, it's more explanatory. Then we have the settings option here. There was no settings in the previous case, so now we can enable, for example, dark mode directly from the settings. All right, and then we can, as I mentioned, we can add language back as well, and there are some other options as well, and we can even choose the theme for terminal as well. Right. So I think that's these are the main changes I can visually see, and let's have a look at some the options which were highlighted by the blog post in a bit detail. One of the features which has been highlighted in the blog post and in the documentation is the debugger in Notebook 7. Previously, as I mentioned, you had to install IPyKernel and CS Python to run Jupyter Notebooks in the debug mode, but you don't need to do that anymore. What you need to do is you can install saying pip install Jupyterlab and Notebook if you want to install, if you are doing a fresh installation, or you can just say uh, upgrade Jupyterlab, Jupyter and Notebook if you want to, if you have an existing installation and if you want to upgrade that to the latest versions. So that's what you need to do. And once you have updated that, then you can open the Jupyter Notebook in version 7 with Jupyterlab running in version 4. We have looked at the comparison. Let's have a look at how we can run debugger in the newer version of Jupyter. Okay, so first of all, what you need to do is you need to enable debug mode by clicking on this icon which says enable debugger. So you can enable debugger by clicking here, and now you can see the interface will change a bit, and you will see that you can find this um, dot on the left side where you can put your um, breakpoints. For example, I can put a breakpoint somewhere here, and then I have another breakpoint at this point, and one of them in the for loop. All right, let's run it. So what I'm going to do is I can go to view and show debugger. Yes, and now I can see all my breakpoints here, and let's try to run this. Can we select run all cells? Yes, we can select run all cells, and you can see the debugger has stopped here. I can continue by clicking the run icon, and it will run to the next point, which is next breakpoint, which is this print statement. It will stop here. I can stop the terminate it. I can step one statement, go to the next statement, step in and or step out as well. So all the main debugger options are available. Okay, let's continue to the next point, and we can then step to the next, as you can see, to do the next line, and we can continue, and because it's a for loop, it will stay in the for loop until it has finished running about 8 times. All right, so let's continue again, and you can see we can you can see the source, breakpoints, and everything. All the variables are available here as well. Right. Okay, so that's the debug option. Let's have a look at the um, other options as well. The next feature I'm going to talk about is real-time collaboration, which is now supported in Notebook 7. To use that, you need to install Jupyter Collaboration. You can do a pip install, or you can do a conda install for this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to install pip and Jupyter Collaboration in my environment, and then I'm going to say Jupyterlab and then dash dash collaborative. And once I'm going to do that, now it will launch. If I run this on my server, for example, I can then run this from any computer using the IP of that server with that port number. So let's run this. I'm going to show you two different browser sessions. All right, so now what we're going to do is we can open um, our Jupyter notebooks here, and you can see they are synced here. So I can, for example, I want to clear the outputs of all the cells, and you can see they are cleared in both these sessions running in parallel. Now what I can do is if I have a collaborator who is working with me, they might be sitting on a different computer, but we are connected to the same server. So I can, as you can see, I can change this easily, and both the versions are simultaneously being changed. So I can also run all the cells, and if you can see that the outputs for all the cells will be written simultaneously. So as this notebook is running. You can see all the outputs have been simultaneously um, running in both the notebooks. So that's how you can run Jupyter Notebook in a collaborative manner with the newer version. So that's all for today. We have discussed most of the features which have been highlighted in the documentation. I hope you liked this video. Subscribe for more videos. Bye for now. Thank you.